introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux. I live here in Arizona.
And if you can pull the mic just a little closer to you and roll in a little closer. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. How old are you, Brandon?
I'm 40 years old.
You said you're currently living in Arizona?
I am, yes.
What do you do for a living?
Currently, I own a solar company.
Okay. I want to talk to you sort of about your marriages. Are you currently married?
I am.
Do you have a prior marriage?
I did, yes.
I want to talk about your prior marriage. When did you get married initially?
I was married initially October 31st, 2008.
And who were you married to?
Melanie Cope at the time. She became Boudreaux.
How long were you and Melanie married?
A little over 10 years.
Did you two have any children?
We have 4.
Do you recall approximately when you began divorce proceedings with Melanie?
It would have been in July of 2019.
And do you recall approximately when your divorce with Melanie was finalized?
It would have been in October of 2019.
Was it before or after October 2nd?
It was the middle of October.
Okay.
So after.
Now, do you have family here in Arizona?
I have a brother who lives in Tucson now, but at the time I did not have any family here in Arizona.
They lived in another state.
Yes.
Did Melanie have family that lived here in Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Did you know someone by the name of Lori Vallow?
I did. That was Melanie's aunt.
And did you spend a lot of time with Melanie's aunt, Lori Vallow?
Yes, we spent a lot of time together.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's directly behind you wearing glasses and a blue top.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It shall.
When you knew or were spending time with Lori Vallow, was she married at that time?
She was.
Who was her husband then?
Charles Vallow.
And how often would you see Lori Vallow and her family?
Pretty often. We would spend holidays together. We often vacationed together, and our children were close, so it wouldn't be unordinary to see each other every week.
Okay. Were you close with Lori Vallow's prior husband, Charles Vallow?
I was, yes.
Did you know other members of Melanie's sort of expanded family?
Yes, I did.
Did you know a person by the name of Alex Cox?
Yes, I did.
Who was he in relation to Melanie?
That would be her uncle.
Okay. So Lori's brother?
Correct, yes.
And before your divorce from Melanie, did you see Alex Cox often?
Not as often as Lori, but yes, I did see him.
Okay.
Usually at a family get-together.
Did you know anyone by the name of Chad Daybell?
No, I did not.
Did you later become aware that Lori Vallow married a Chad Daybell?
Yes, I did.
Can you try to describe for us the relationship between Melanie, your ex-wife, and her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I would say that she looked at her as maybe more than an aunt, like closer to a mother figure. Her mother passed away when she was younger, and she let her hold a lot of influence in her life.
Okay. Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending a lot more time with Lori?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending more time with Lori?
Yes.
In 2019, did you start to notice issues with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did.
Without going into what was said, did you ever speak with Charles Vallow about Lori Vallow interfering with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did, on a few occasions.
I want to talk to you about June 25th of 2019. Did that day stick out to you?
Yes, it does.
Why do you remember that date?
On June 25th of 2019, I had a long disagreement with my then wife. My grandfather had passed away suddenly of a heart attack a few days earlier, and she had told me she didn't want to go to his funeral, and that had led to the start of a disagreement that quickly changed and was very different than what I thought was going on.
I'm going to have you put your mic just a little closer to you.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. So you said it started out as a conversation about going to your grandfather's funeral,
Yes,
and then it changed into something different?
it did, yes.
During this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, were you accused or told that you had been involved in doing some things to her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I was, yes. This sticks out because it was so bizarre to me. I was trying to talk to my wife about our relationship, and she was using different language that was confusing. She kept saying that she was going to reveal things about me, and it just didn't make sense. And then she accused me of hacking Lori's computer, which I knew I hadn't done, and I didn't know why it mattered to what we were talking about. So, that something like that sticks with you because it's just doesn't connect.
Do you know how to hack into other people's computers?
I do not.
So you're being accused of hacking into Lori Vallow's computer. Did anything get raised during this conversation regarding your sexuality?
Yeah, it was a very long argument. It started in the afternoon and went past midnight, and as things kept escalating, more different allegations that didn't make any sense kept coming up, and one of those was that God had revealed to her that I was gay, and that one stuck out because Charles had told me that that Lori was trying to convince her of that, which I thought was so bizarre. It just didn't make any sense. I was married and we had 4 kids. So,
did you ever hear anything about allegations that you were trying to help Charles take Lori Vallow's temple recommend away?
it didn't come up in that specific argument, other than as a side mention of why I might have hacked a computer. But yes, I did hear those allegations.
I want to ask you, are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes, I am.
Were you and Melanie both practicing members?
We were, yes.
Was Lori Vallow and her family practicing members?
As far as I knew, yes.
When we talk about a temple recommend, what is that?
Inside of our faith, we try to set aside the temple to be a place that's sacred. It's a place where you can be closer to God, and because you want it to be a sacred place, we try to live to a higher standard if we're going to go in there. It's the idea of trying to be more like the Savior's example and keeping promises or covenants that you make to him. And so in that process, most of us self-report to a bishop or an ecclesiastical leader, and and a stake president or a higher ecclesiastical leader, just to verify that you're doing your best to keep those promises. It's kind of a way to help you assess, to decide if it's a place that you should go, or am I living in a way that I can go and feel good about, trying to get closer to God in that space, and am I living in a way that sets it aside and makes it somewhere special, somewhere sacred?
If someone's temple recommend is removed who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that a really significant thing?
For most of us, we would feel like, personally, I would feel that way. It's something that is sacred to me, and it is important. And so I would not want to lose that. It would be something that would reflect that I'm not doing a very good job of my goal to try to be more like my Savior.
Okay. When you were having this argument, this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, what are you thinking?
It began with just frustration, which when I took a little time and was introverted and thought about it, I realized wasn't fair. If she didn't want to go to a grandfather's funeral, I recognized that me feeling frustrated was something I should deal with myself, but not try to force someone else to do something that they weren't comfortable with. And then it was just really painful, because the rest of it there's a lot of frustration that comes from, at the end of it, she was asking for a divorce and demanding that we end our marriage. And, I had 4 kids, and this was going to change their entire world. It was going to change everything for my family.
Did you, having spoken with Melanie, feel that Lori Vallow was involved in some of these things that Melanie was telling you that was why your divorce should end?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. As you are listening to the things that Melanie was telling you that evening or afternoon into the evening of June 25th, did you believe that Lori Vallow had been involved in some of these ideas that were being told to you as to why your marriage should end?
Yeah, I mean, how else does her aunt's computer getting hacked even come up without Lori being involved? So I got pretty frustrated at one point, and I think I told her I'm going to take a break, and I texted Lori and Charles and tried to call both of them to discuss it with them, because I wanted them to understand the gravity. This is my family. This is my kids. This changes the rest of their lives. It's not just whatever was going on for those two.
So you told us that you just mentioned that you actually sent a text message, or a couple of text messages, to Lori Vallow that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can you scoot just a little closer? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why did you text Lori Vallow that night?
Hope that she would have integrity, that she would respond and acknowledge that I didn't hack her computer. I don't know, honestly. Just hope, I was trying to find something to fix the problem.
So you felt strongly enough that Lori Vallow was involved in these ideas that Melanie was putting at you that you actually reached out to her?
Yes.
Your Honor, I've shown the defendant Exhibit 122. I'd like to have my paralegal bring that up. I want you to look at Exhibit 122. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Are those messages that you sent to Lori Vallow on June 25th of 2019?
Yes, they are.
Do those relate to the allegations that were being told to you by Melanie that Lori had provided her?
Yes, they do.
And that was you trying to fix these things that were lies.
Correct.
State will move to admit Exhibit 122.
Any objection?
No objection.
122 is admitted.
If I may publish. Okay. Brendan, just so we understand, when you were shot at on October 2nd of 2019, did you actually provide the police with your cell phone
I did, yes.
so they could download everything?
Yes.
And is this from your cell phone?
Yes.
So we see on June 25th of 2019 at 6:45 p.m., the first message that you sent? And was this phone number, the 808 number, Lori Vallow's phone number?
Correct.
In the message, what did you tell Lori?
I told her that Melanie believed I helped to try to get her temporary recommend taken away, and that we both knew that it wasn't true. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Lori, I sent this to Charles. I'm sending it to you as well. Charles, Melanie believes I helped you to try to get Lori's temple recommend taken away. You and I both know that's not true. She does not believe me. I wanted to send this to both you and Lori. If either of you care at all for me or my children, you'll come forward and be truthful. I've never done anything to hurt either of you. I can't believe you would lie to her about something like this. I gave you a blessing when you're your worst in my home. My children will be punished if my wife leaves me or can't believe me when I have done nothing. This is on your heads to make it right.
So your initial thing was about that temple recommend because that was so important, right?
Yes.
But that was just one of the lies that had been told to you by Melanie.
Yes, and at this time I didn't know that she also believed that I was gay. That came after I had sent these texts.
Did you get a response after this first text?
No.
Do we see then a second text at 9:10 p.m., same day, September 25th?
Yes.
What did you say then?
At least have the respect to talk to me to my face, not whispered behind my back. She believes you and you are lying. This is going to affect my children.
Okay. Did she respond to you then?
No.
And a couple minutes later, did you send Lori another message?
I did.
What did you say then?
I will not stop until the truth is known. It says I didn't dip, but a typo. I didn't do the things you said, and because I know I did not, I will find a way to prove it.
Did Lori ever respond to any of those?
No.
Were you able to convince Melanie that these things that Lori had told her were not true?
No.
Would she listen to you about it?
After that evening, she would never spend time alone with me again. There's always someone else with us everywhere that we ever talked or communicated.
Did you want to get divorced?
No,
Did you agree to a divorce?
I did.
How did you and Melanie decide to go forward with the divorce?
We used a mediator.
How does that work?
You have choices. You can either each get your own lawyer and they can help advocate for you through the process, or you can use a mediator. Those are the two, or you can do it yourselves without lawyers, I guess, as well. And as you go through that divorce process, you really discuss two key concepts: all of the money and the finance side, and then the children when you have children. And so a mediator is helpful in being able to help you understand what the law thinks if you both can't agree on something, and help you go through and think. It's a lot to think about. And, you're very I was very emotional going through that. And so they're helpful, that they can kind of guide you to make sure you're covering all your bases and you're thinking about the future for your kids, thinking about what's fair in the financials, all of those things.
At that time, what were the ages of your kids? I know, I got to go back a few years. So in 2019,
Braxton would have been 9, and then I would add a 5-year-old and a, what would Blake be? 2000, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
and you told us that you started to see a mediator sort of in July of 2019.
Yes,
Do you recall if it was the beginning, middle, or end of July?
beginning of July.
So really fairly quickly after you were confronted with these theories of you hacking Lori's computer and trying to take her Temple recommend away.
Yeah.
As you went through a mediator, did you agree to have joint custody of your kids?
I did.
Did you and Melanie have a house at the time you were married?
We did, yes, and in the mediation we agreed to sell it.
Now, prior to the sale of the house, did Melanie move somewhere else to live?
Yeah, we agreed that I would help her find a rental, which we did. And then our house was an expensive house. We were listing it at about $1 million, and so having those young kids inside of it while you're trying to have it show ready all the time was a concern. So we agreed we'd get a rental house where the kids would be able to stay, so that they could just be kids and not have to try to live super, super clean. And I would stay in the house and just kind of live in it as a shell house till it's sold.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when Melanie moved out?
July, around the 14th or so, I think. I'm not 100%. It's been 6
Mid-July?
years. Yeah, mid-July.
So the kids were living with Melanie in the rental house, and you were staying in sort of I'll call it a community property house at this point. Do you recall when your house sold?
In September, I think we got it under contract, and at which point I started looking for a rental house, probably.
For yourself?
Yeah, for me to move into, so that we could then do our joint 50-50 custody with our kids.
Did you find a house to rent?
I did.
And was that the 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert?
Yes.
When you were looking for a residence, did you consider at all the location of Melanie's rental house?
Yeah, I tried to, we had agreed we would stay within a couple miles of each other so that it would be convenient for each of us. And I also tried to move close to where I had before I had built the home that we had, I had lived in that same neighborhood. So I tried to move closely to a place my kids would be familiar.
Okay. Did you sign a lease for that 3875 East Phelps Street on September 13th of 2019?
Yes.
What was your plan in terms of when you were going to move into that new house versus staying in the community home?
I was going to stay in the community home until right before we finished everything up, so like the end of September, and then I would move over to the new house.
And when was the community house supposed to close?
October 1st.
Okay. And what was the mediation agreement for that money on October 1st? Who would get what?
It was going to be split between me and Melanie, and it was supposed to all go to one account, and then I would transfer the money over to her.
Okay. So at some point, did the plan ever change as to when you were going to move into the Phelps house?
Yes. I heard from Melanie that I had an option to get my kids early, which I was getting very limited time with my children. That was hard for me. You know, it's difficult going through transitions like that. So she had offered, she said she was going out of town and that I could have my kids early if I got the house early. And so I was excited, and I quickly changed my plans and made a quick move from the current house into the new house to get it ready, because when you have young kids, you have to kind of prepare. You can't just move them in. Everything needs to be kind of organized.
During the mediation, had you and Melanie come up with an agreement as to when each of you would have the children?
Yes.
What was that agreement?
Mondays and Tuesdays would be my days. Wednesdays and Thursdays would be her days, and then we would rotate weekends.
So weekends for you guys was Friday through Sunday?
Correct.
And then how would you hand off the children, and what would happen with your youngest?
I worked, so she would watch my youngest even on my days, and then handoffs would happen at school. If they were in school, we would just drop off, and the other person would do the pickup. If they weren't in school, then it would be drop off at each other's houses.
Okay. So you said you worked. Did Melanie work?
She did not.
Okay. So Melanie kind of just tells you she's going out of town on the 26th and offers the children to you. Do you recall about when you moved into now this residence on Phelps?
It's been a really long time. Shortly after, I think, that conversation, about a few days prior to when I got the kids. I think it took me a couple days to move in.
So you had the kids on the 26th.
I did, yeah.
How did you told us you had been planning to move in a little bit later. How did you get moved earlier, quicker? Did you have people help you? What'd you do?
My neighbors that lived across the street from me at the house that I was selling noticed that I was moving and offered to help. I just went and got a truck and decided to move. I was excited. I didn't tell anybody even. I just kind of jumped after it, and then one other friend found out, and he brought another friend. So there's 4 people who helped me move, and they were the only people. I mean, I immediately had my kids after. They're the only people who even knew that I had moved. It was a very quick decision.
Now, you told us that part of the agreement would be that you and Melanie would would drop off the kids. At any time, did Melanie ask you for the address of your new residence?
Yes, she did.
Did you provide it to her?
Yes, I did.
You think anything of it when she asked you that?
I mean, no, I did. I had said I would give her my address. Always, we had to drop each other the kids, so she had to know where I lived.
Okay. You told us that you hadn't told anyone else your address?
Yeah, it wasn't like out of secrecy. It just hadn't come up yet because it was so quick.
So, Melanie knew your address,
Yes,
and then you said 2 of your neighbors helped you move,
correct.
so they knew your address. And then you said one of your friends helped you move?
And he brought another friend, so 2 of my friends knew where I lived.
Okay, so 5 people knew your address?
Yes.
Shown Defense Counsel 123, if I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Are those the text message between you and Melanie where she asks you for your new address and you provide it to her?
They are.
And was that on September 17th of 2019?
It is.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 123.
Any objection?
No objection.
123 is admitted.
The state will move to publish.
Go ahead.
So again, you told us that you had provided your cell phone to the Gilbert Police Department on October 2nd. Is this from your phone?
Yes.
And so Melanie texted you on September 17th at 10 in the morning. What's your new address?
That's correct.
And a few minutes later, 27 minutes later, you provided her 3875 East Phelps.
Correct.
You told us your parents did not live in Arizona, right?
That's correct.
And at the time, really, you didn't have any family in Arizona. Did your neighbors that helped you move know Lori Vallow?
No.
Did your neighbors that helped you move know Alex Cox?
No.
How about your friend that helped you move, the two people who helped you move with them? Did they know Lori Vallow?
No.
Did they know Alex Cox?
No.
Did you post your address on any LinkedIn or social media?
No.
So on September 17th and on September 26th, when you got the kids, were the only people that knew your address and knew Lori Vallow and Alex Cox, your then wife, Melanie Boudreaux?
Yes.
So on September 26th, you're in your rental house on Phelps Street. You have your children with you. And is this sort of the first time you have been there with your kids?
Yes.
And this was over a weekend, correct?
Correct.
So you had your kids sort of that weekend of the Saturday, the 27th and 28th. And then did you follow your normal schedule now of Monday and Tuesday having the kids?
Yes.
And then was October 2nd sort of Wednesday, October 2nd? And that would be the day you would normally exchange the
Correct.
children?
That was the first day that I would not have my kids.
Okay. And so on October 2nd would be the day that Melanie would now have control of the kids that evening?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about your schedule with your kids the morning of October 2nd.
Okay.
Can you tell us sort of what your general schedule was? What'd you get up and do with all the kids?
Yeah, it's been a long time. You know, my kids are different now, but back then, I would probably wake up an hour and a half early. Got to wake each kid up individually. Kind of, each of them has different needs. I think Breeze was still in diapers. Blake might have even still been in diapers. So you wake them up. You make sure that you get them cleaned up, changed. You feed them. Got to get 3 of the 4 of them dressed. They don't know how to dress themselves. So you got to give yourself time. So probably an hour and a half making food, getting kids ready, making sure everybody's good to go and prepared so that when you get within a short amount of time of school, you can get the 2 that are in elementary school there on time.
All right, so you said you had 2 that were in elementary school. Were they in the same school?
Yes.
And so that leaves 2 other kids.
Yes.
What did you do with the other 2 kids?
Blake was in like a pre-K preschool that was right by the new rental that we got Melanie, and then I dropped Breeze off at Melanie's. Well, she didn't want me to come to her house, so I would drop her off at the park, and then watch her run to her mom.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when you left the house that morning to start taking the kids to drop them off at their different locations? Let me ask you this. Do you recall approximately when the kids had to be at school?
7. I probably would have left at 7:30. They probably started at 7:50. That's.
And were the schools you said close to your Phelps Street?
It was like probably a 5 or 10 minute drive, depending on if there was some traffic or not.
Okay. So who did you handle first? Where did you go first?
I'd always drop the 2 that were in elementary school first. That was on the way to their mom's house. So we would take those 2, drop them at their school, and then I would drive the rest of the way to their mom's house and at the park and drop at the park right there by her house. And then I would go drop Blake at the at his school.
So on the morning of October 2nd, did you follow that same schedule and go to the park to drop off your youngest?
Yes.
And how would Melanie know that you were there?
I would text.
Okay. Did you do that morning?
I did.
And then you said you would kind of just once you knew she was there, let your daughter go to her.
Yeah.
So would you visually see her and then let your youngest go to her?
Of course, yeah.
Show Defense Counsel Exhibit 124. Like that, my paralegal approach with that. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes.
And are they from October 2nd of 2019 around 7:40 in the morning?
Yes.
And do they reflect you letting Melanie know that you were there with your youngest?
Yes.
State will move to admit 124.
Any objection?
No objection.
124 is submitted.
If I may publish. So, do we see here on October 2nd at 7:40 in the morning, you sent a text message to Melanie saying pulling up,
Correct.
and then you received a message for her that she'd be there in a minute?
Yes.
Were you able to hand off your youngest to Melanie?
Yes.
Did you go home after that?
I did not.
Did you tell Melanie where you were going after that?
I did not.
Where did you go?
I went to the gym.
How long, well, let me ask you this. Where was the gym in relation to your Phelps house?
It was a couple minutes away. It was it was midway between her and my Phelps house.
Okay. And how long were you at the gym? About?
Hour and a half.
Okay. Can you tell us what kind of car you were driving back in October of 2019?
It was a black Tesla Model X.
Okay. Two-door or four-door?
4-door. It's
Okay.
like an SUV.
How long had you had that Tesla?
A few years. I bought it, I want to say 3 or 4 years earlier.
Okay. So Melanie knew about that car?
Yes.
You had had it when you two were together,
Correct.
and you continued to have it as you were going through the divorce proceedings.
Correct.
And you drove that Tesla to that park when you exchanged your youngest.
Yes, I did.
I want to talk a little bit about Tesla vehicles. They're electric, right?
They are, yeah.
They drive a little different than gas cars.
They do, yes.
Can you tell us first about the acceleration?
When you're driving a Tesla, they have when you take your foot off the gas, they built in a system that makes it slow down, so it like brakes for you. So they call it one pedal driving, but so when you push it, it'll accelerate really fast because that's just how electric motors work. The torque's very quick, so you can go much quicker. And it also, when you take your foot off the gas, it'll slow down a lot quicker too if you leave that feature on. So it drives very different than a gas car. You don't use the brakes as much.
Okay. So if you take your foot completely off the acceleration pedal, it almost stops?
Yeah, it can be very abrupt. It can feel like hitting the brakes.
And so had you learned over those years how to kind of slow down by taking your foot slowly off that acceleration pedal?
Yeah, you drive different.
Did your Tesla have any type of technology built in to automatically open a garage door when you're within a certain range of it?
Yeah, it did. It had that exact feature. It was when it got in a certain range, it would just send a garage door signal and open it up.
Had you programmed that feature at the Phelps house.
I did, yes.
If you put your Tesla into park, what would happen?
I used the feature where it would make the driver's side door just open automatically for you, so you didn't even have to reach over and open it.
Would it open all the way?
It would just slowly open. Sometimes it would open all the way. Sometimes it would open like a quarter of the way. There's like a sensor to make sure it doesn't hit stuff.
Okay. And so that was something you had programmed already, so every time you put your car in park, that would happen for you.
Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the driver's door of your Tesla. In a lot of cars, we see a metal frame that goes around the window. Did your Tesla have that?
No, they make the window seal up into the frame of the car, and so there's no top frame on the door itself, no metal top frame.
Shown defendant exhibit 25. I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize what that photo is?
That's a photo of my car.
And does that show the door itself without the glass, but the frame of the door?
Yeah, does a really good job showing that.
State will move to admit exhibit 25.
Any objection?
No objection.
25 is admitted.
Okay. So is this actually a picture of your vehicle from October 2nd of 2019?
Yes.
And so we can see that there's no sort of metal frame around where the window would be, right?
Correct.
Okay. And is this actually your glass window right here?
Yes, I believe it fell out when I opened the door, or when I put my car in park.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that morning of October 2nd. You drop off your youngest with Melanie. What did you said you went and dropped off your fourth child at sort of a day pre-K type of course?
Yeah.
And then you went to the gym.
Yes.
After you went to the gym, what did you do?
I drove back from the gym to my house.
Okay. What was your plan that morning?
My plan was to shower and go to work and meet with my business partners, and we had an owners meeting that day.
Okay. Can you tell us what happened when you turned into or onto Phelps Street that morning?
That morning, I made my usual left onto Phelps Street, and there's one house and then my house, and so it's not like you're driving. You're coming through a turn, so you're not moving super fast, and there's not a lot of distance, so I don't really push the gas very hard. But I remember coming around the corner, kind of letting it almost kind of coast as I was waiting for it to catch the signal and send my my garage door up. And while I was doing that, I noticed a Jeep that was parked, and it was really awkward.
Why was it awkward?
It was parked on top of the car that was normally there. So there's usually a van there, and it was just like parked nose to the van. And it was like, the back of it was almost blocking my driveway. It was parked so you just wouldn't think anyone would choose to park like that. So it kind of stood out to you right as you came around that corner. I noticed it had a Texas plate. The other thing that was awkward about it was no back tire, which Jeeps always have the back tire. That's like their thing. So all of that stood out, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of time when you're coming around a corner like that, but all of that just like, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I remember thinking my neighbor must know somebody from Texas, because I'm new, I don't know anybody yet. And I was like, and man, they parked awkward, like that's a really crappy park job.
So that we understand, was the Jeep parked sort of the opposite way of traffic?
Yes,
And so when you come around the corner, you're seeing the back of the Jeep.
correct.
And you said it was nose to nose with a white vehicle?
Was it? Yeah, I believe it's a van.
And was that a vehicle you had seen in the few days you had lived there?
Yeah, it had been parked there every day so far.
Okay. So you recognize that one. Was there a lot of other vehicles parked on the street?
No,
Just that Jeep right up to that one and on your driveway?
correct.
When you were coming in and sort of slowing down, what do you see happen?
So as I let the car kind of coast in, the back window pops up. I see a muzzle. I hear a bang. And you know your fight or flight kicks in at that point. So for me, I just immediately thought, and my window shattered. You know, all that happened in like the snap of a finger. And so I just immediately thought someone shooting at me because I saw a muzzle. So I hit the accelerator and I just went straight. I no longer was planning on turning into my driveway to let the garage door trigger. And
I'm gonna have you pull your mic just a little bit down again.
yeah, I'm sorry. I can lean forward. Could you hear all of that?
So let me go a little bit through it. So you said you saw the rear window open.
Yes.
Is that sort of the window that normally the tire would block from opening?
Yes.
Did you see any hands or anything pushing it open?
I can't say I did. The windows were dark, and I remember it lifting, and I remember seeing a muzzle.
Let's talk about the muzzle. Could you tell, like, was it a handgun muzzle, a rifle muzzle? What are we talking about?
It looked like a rifle or a long gun. Yes. Also, possibly like there was a silencer on it or a suppressor or something, because I remember the muzzle looked a little bit awkward at the end.
Okay. Have you shot guns before?
Yes.
Have you shot rifles before?
Rifles and handguns and shotguns.
Did you grow up sort of shooting, hunting?
Yeah, my family hunts. I'm not a big hunter myself.
But you're familiar then with rifles and shotguns.
Yes.
Had you shot handguns before?
Yes.
So when you saw this, what did you think it was, the muzzle that you saw?
I mean, you had a very short window, but it looked like a rifle to me with maybe a suppressor or something on it.
Okay, so it was able to come out of the window enough that it looked like a rifle to
Yes.
you. You said you heard something. Can you describe that for us?
It's a loud bang, gunshot. That's the only thing I can think of.
And you've heard gunshots before.
Lots of gunshots, yeah.
So you hear this and you recognize that as a gunshot.
Yes,
And you said then your window shattered.
correct.
Did you see a hole through your window?
No, which was confusing. So I was, all this stuff is happening quick. I'm sure I had some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Shock, some form of shock. I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but I remember the first thought I had was I need to call 911. Someone just shot at me. So that, and I remember my phone flying forward and backward because I was driving quickly and accelerating quickly. I remember getting my phone and calling 911 and just, I remember having a hard time breathing, just feeling overwhelmed that somebody shot at me. And then I think maybe because I was feeling a little guilty or something, I remember thinking like, oh, maybe, there's no bullet in my car. I don't see a bullet hole anywhere. Maybe they did, maybe it wasn't a real gun. Maybe I'm overthinking this, You have a lot of thoughts going through your head.
Did you ever say maybe it was a paint gun?
Yes, I think I did.
thinking now, have you seen a paint gun before?
Yeah, I've played paintball lots of times.
Does paint come out? And
Not as loud, and it marks stuff everywhere.
would it have left, in your experience, having fired paint guns, does it shoot out paint that you would then see?
Yeah, wherever it hits, it leaves a bunch. I mean, that's why it's called paintball.
Did you see any paint on your window?
No,
Were you thinking clearly at that point when you're thinking about that?
I think there's a lot of thoughts that go through your mind. It was a very stressful situation. I've never had someone shoot at me before.
You called 911, and you told us that you drove away from the area, right?
Yeah, I accelerated, went around a corner, and I parked by, there's a pool right there in the community. So I pulled over and parked next to the pool.
I want to show defense defendant two different maps of the area. I can have my paralegal approach with exhibits 1 and 3. Can you look at those two exhibits and tell me if you recognize them as maps of the neighborhood, a closer up, as well as a further away map of your Phelps Street address and the streets around it?
Correct, yes, they are.
And those are sort of accurate maps of that whole area.
Yeah, I'd say they're accurate.
State would move to admit exhibits 1 and 3.
Any objection?
No objection.
1 and 3 are admitted. After you publish, let's recess.
I'm going to start with 1. Actually, I think it's this way. When you were driving to your residence, I'll do it this way. We see here 3875 East Phelps Street. Is that your address at
Yes.
that time? And so it was 2 houses in.
Yeah.
When you were arriving back to your residence that morning of October 2nd, can you describe for us how you came in to the neighborhood?
I guess people probably can't see when I point. I would have gone up.
Let me pull out just a little bit.
I would have come around where the map kind of starts there. Yeah, where your pen was. If you go down to that corner, I would have come there off Fairview, come all the way up, gone up that street where your pen was, and gone. And that's the way that I came in,
Okay.
where your pen just traced.
So you went through this intersection and then you turned left here, and that's where you saw, as you turned that corner, that Jeep Wrangler.
Correct.
Did you notice if the Jeep had 2 or 4 doors?
2 doors.
Okay. Did you notice anything about the license plate?
It was a Texas plate.
Were you able to get the license plate number?
I was not.
After the shooting, you told us that you sort of took off, and I'm putting exhibit 3 up now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we see Phelps Street. Is that the same street we were talking about?
That is.
You told us that you accelerated. Was it this direction on Phelps?
Correct.
And what did you do when you got to this intersection?
Made a right on Cole, and you can see there's a pool right up there. I parked right there in front of that pool where that little walkway is, right on the.
So you parked right near the pool here.
Yeah, right where your pen tip was there, kind of by the E.
Were you on the phone with 911 prior to reaching that pool?
Yes, I was on the phone with 911, I think, as I got towards the end of Phelps Street.
Did you see the Jeep as you were there at the pool?
I did, yes.
And where did you see the Jeep go?
It came down Phelps Street, went north on Cole, then it made a right on Waite when it saw me, and then it continued down Waite and made a right down whatever that road is. There's no name on it. And then I lost it at that point. It went down Fairview, and if you go to the bottom of this, it actually exits out onto Pecos Road. So I knew where they had to have gone, because the only way out of that neighborhood is to go down that Fairview Street drive and go around on Francis and then go out onto Pecos. And so that's what I told the police when I told them what happened. I told them that it had exited out onto Pecos.
So basically, the only two ways to get out of your neighborhood was either to go up Cole, where they would have had to go past you to get onto Fry, or to go south to Pecos Road
Correct.
through this neighborhood.
Yes.
When we had broke, we were talking about your travel and the travel of the Jeep after the shooting, correct?
Correct.
In terms of your movement, you told us that the Jeep had gone, I'm going to take this out of the shiny gloss. You told us the Jeep had gone on Phelps up to Cole, and you were here, and that's where you saw it turn on Waite?
Correct.
Were you able to kind of see across here to watch the Jeep?
Yeah, you can't see from this aerial view, but there's just like a fence, and there's nothing else there. It's just bushes. So you can see almost that whole street there on Waite from where I was sitting.
Which direction was your car facing? Towards Fry or away from Fry?
My nose was pointed towards Fry.
Okay. So you were able to see the Jeep then continue and turn down this street?
Correct.
After that, did you see the Jeep again?
I didn't.
Where did you go? What was your return route back to your house?
I did a U-turn there on Cole, and then I turned onto Waite, and I drove down Waite, and then back onto Phelps.
So sort of following the path of the Jeep as well until you got to Phelps?
Yeah, and then I just pulled into my driveway.
Okay.
And then I sat and waited for an officer.
Were you on with 911 during that whole time?
I was.
Exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14. When you came back to your house, well, let me ask you, I want to ask you some distance. When you first arrived at your house and you saw that Jeep, you told us you'd never seen it before. Can you tell us approximately how far away you were from the back of that Jeep when you heard that gunshot?
Well, you could kind of see in that map, there's only two houses. I was at the end of the first house, and the driveway was on the end half of my house. So I was past the point of my house and moving towards that driveway. So I would probably say a few feet, 15 feet or 10 feet or something like that was the distance.
Do you recall ever saying maybe 20 or so feet?
I'm sure I could have. It was a long time ago.
I've shown the defendant exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14, if I can have my paralegal approach with these exhibits. You can take a look at those and let me know if they depict Phelps Street and the house you rented, as well as some cones to represent different things in the street.
Yes,
Do you recognize all of those?
I do.
State will move to admit 4, 9, 13, and 14.
Any objection?
No objection.
4, 9, 13, and 14
13 and 14.
are admitted.
I'm going to start with 4. In this photograph, we see a police car down here. Is this your car here?
It is.
So is this the street that when you're turning down Phelps, you're talking about coming from this end?
Yes.
So you passed one house and your house is the second house.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's the white van that was parked there.
Okay. So we have another photo. Let me first kind of go here. In this photograph, is this your residence? And this is Exhibit 9.
Yes.
Okay. And this is your driveway.
Correct. It's on the outside
And
edge.
so is this the area? Well, let me ask you, where was the Jeep parked?
You can see just the front of the white van's bumper there. It literally, the bumper of the Jeep was touching that van's bumper. It was just right on top of it. So the back of the Jeep would have been right where your pin point is right now.
Okay, so right at the edge of your driveway?
Correct.
I'm going to use 13 and then 14 to give us kind of, we'll go back and forth between them. So in 14 here, is this the white vehicle you were talking about?
Yes.
And this shaded area between the Jeep and the driveway is where you're discussing that the Jeep was parked?
Correct.
And then this is your driveway.
Yes.
The rear of the Jeep was facing you.
Correct. It was facing towards me.
We see two cones here. What do those depict in terms of the location of your vehicle?
The front of my vehicle would be that one that your pen's pointing at, and the back of my vehicle would be there. That's an estimate. Obviously, we were trying to recreate, but that's an estimate about where my car was when I heard the shot and my window shattered.
Okay. So at this point, when we were talking about slowing down, had you started to turn into the driveway yet?
No.
So you were still sort of straightforward?
Correct.
Okay. And so the distance that we're talking about is what we see here in 13 from this cone to the edge of your driveway here?
Correct.
Okay. So a little over the width of your driveway.
Yeah.
When you saw the rifle come out of the rear of that Jeep, can you describe for us what you say you saw on the end of it?
It was cylindrical, and it looked a little bigger than a normal. I mean, every muzzle at the end of those rifles has some kind of a sight or usually something on it that they use to when you're shooting. But this looked like it had something different on it. It was a little bigger, and that's why I said a suppressor or I mean, I didn't get a long look at it, but it definitely stood out to me that it looked a little different. I think that's the part that I described was that it was noticeable.
Okay, so it was wider or bigger than the normal barrel itself.
Correct.
Okay. When the window shattered next to you, did anything come in to you that you recognized at that time?
No.
Did you understand at that point there wasn't a hole in your window?
Correct.
As you hear that bang and see your window shatter here, is that then when you accelerate this direction that we see down Exhibit 14?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Okay. And then when you got to the end of this street, which direction did you go?
I went right.
Okay. And then you headed straight up Cole and stopped at that park or whatever with the pool?
Yes.
As you are waiting in the driveway here in your car, did you get out of it? I know you said the door opened, but did you get out?
I didn't get out and look at my car. The door opened, the window fell down, and I think that I just kind of let the window fall there, and I might have moved like part of the window over, but I'm pretty sure I think that and I'd have to probably review, but I'm pretty sure they asked me to stay in my car till the police officer arrived. So I'm pretty sure I just stayed in the car and waited for the officer.
So before the officer arrived, did you look at your vehicle itself? I'm going to put up Exhibit 25 again.
The first time that I looked at the outside of the exterior of my vehicle was actually when the officer walked me over to my car. And both of us at the same time saw on the top of the door frame there's the spot where the bullet hit. And that was the first time that I knew for certain that I had kind of been shot at. And I remember probably another feeling of shock again, kind of like the first time when someone shoots at you and it's loud. And I remember just thinking, like, that's really close to where I was sitting. Like, it was inches from my head.
Shown the defendant Exhibit 26. Now by legal approach. Brandon, do you recognize what that is a photograph of?
Yes,
What is that a photograph of?
that's the photograph of the top of my car.
That show the bullet hole that you saw?
It does, yes.
State will move to admit Exhibit 26.
Any objection?
No objection.
26 is admitted.
So we see here in Exhibit 26, this the bullet hole.
That is.
Dumb question, was it there before?
No,
Was your window broken before this?
no.
And you were sitting right here.
Correct. You can't see it as well, but that's when you sit in that with the way I was sitting in the chair, my head would have been right at that level.
When you called 911, were you sort of telling them both sort of what had just happened as well as what was ongoing happening, what you're seeing with the Jeep?
Correct.
Did you make that, you told us, as you're immediately driving away from this shooting?
Yeah, I immediately thought the right thing to do was call 911.
Did you tell the operator at one point you were almost out of breath?
Yeah, when I remember when I first called, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I just remember I couldn't breathe. I was like feeling surprised, maybe. I don't think we have a word for that feeling.
Were you scared?
Yeah,
Do you have concern for your life at that point?
yes,
Were you trying to figure out what had just happened?
yes.
And I've shown the defendant Exhibit 125, the 911 call. If I could have our legal play that, just have the witness identify himself in it.
Go ahead.
You can approach with the computer.
Yes.
Brandon, if you can just listen to that. Have you listened to your 911 call before?
I have, yeah.
you can listen
Yes.
to that and let us know if you recognize that as your 911 call and as your voice.
Yes, this is my 911 call.
Thank you. Under the state will move to admit Exhibit 125 pursuant to 8031, 8032, and 902.
No objection.
Submitted.
And if we can publish that.
Go ahead.
Gee, I moved to a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove?
October 2nd, 2019. 9 hours, 14 minutes, 53 seconds.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Okay,
They're
where
in a
at?
Jeep. I'm in the Cooley Station neighborhood. I was pulling in my house at 38755 East. But I can see them driving off.
Okay, someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window. It shattered my driver's side window.
Okay, when you pulled into his driveway?
As I was trying to pull in my driveway. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm a little lost for breath. They just drove off. I saw them drive off.
Okay. Do you know who these people are?
I have no idea. I moved into a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove away?
Jeep Wrangler, had a Texas plate on it. It was,
Jeep
It was,
Wrangler?
yeah, it was olive green.
Olive green? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. Texas license plate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get the plate. I'm sorry. I got a little nervous.
That's okay. That's all right. Oh, which way did they go? Do you remember?
They're driving south towards Pecos Road, between Pecos and Rector.
Okay. Okay. You don't see the vehicle anymore?
No, they left. They drove off.
Did you see how many people were in the Jeep? Sir?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, did you see how many people were in the Jeep?
There must have been at least two because somebody shot at me and then somebody else drove off, and I don't think they had enough time to go climb from the back into the front.
Right. Okay. And then do you have any injuries? Did they shoot at you?
They shot at me. It hit my window. It bounced off. It might not have been a real gun. It was loud, but it might have been like a paintball gun or something. 'Cause, I mean, it should have hit me or gone through my window. It just
Okay.
shattered it. It didn't go through.
Okay. Okay. And your window is shattered?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have no idea who these people are?
No idea.
Okay.
They were just parked like right in front of my house.
Okay. They were parked out. So they were parked across the street in front of your house?
You know, in front, right on the same side of the street as my house. Right in front. There's a minivan there. They're just parked right in front of that.
Okay.
I'm pulling into my house because they're gone.
Okay. Where are you at right now?
In my car.
Where are you at?
In my car at my house at 38
Okay.
East Phelps Street. I'm gonna walk over here and see if I can see what they shot at me.
And what kind of car were you in?
I'm in a black Tesla Model X.
It's a black what?
Tesla Model X.
Okay, black Tesla Model X. Okay. Okay. All right. I do have officers on the way to meet you.
Okay.
Do you want to go inside or do you want to wait outside? Wherever you feel.
I'll wait out here. Yeah, I don't know that it was a real gun. Maybe it was. I can't tell. I
Okay.
don't think it was because my window should have gone through my window.
Okay. All right. And what is your name?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux.
And your phone number? Okay. Okay. I'm going to stay on the line with you just to make sure you're safe, just in case they come back. Do you have any weapons on you?
No.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the officer pulling up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Looks like he's coming up Phelps. You said 3875 East Phelps, correct?
Correct. I wonder if he's on, there's another section of it. He might be on another section.
Okay, because, yeah, his car is showing right near Fisher Lane and Phelps Street.
I'm at, what is the cross street? Sorry, I just moved really quick. Yeah, I'm at Fisher and Phelps. I don't see it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. It's funny. His car was showing there for a second, and now it's showing back at Higley and Pecos. So that's kind of weird.
Wonder
I
if
don't
he saw
know.
the Jeep drive off or something.
Maybe. I know that there's actually an officer that's heading towards you, and then there's other officers that are dispatched that are looking for the car. So we've got several guys looking out for the car, but we have one headed towards your house.
Okay.
I think he accidentally hit his arrive button is what happened, because he's still moving. So just out of nowhere, did you see the guy that
I didn't see who it was. It was weird because I was pulling in and I saw a Jeep, Texas plate, and I thought, oh, that's weird. You know, my neighbor must have someone visiting. And then they like lifted up their little back window in their Jeep, and I saw like a muzzle, and then I heard a snap and my window shattered. So I just, instead of turning into my driveway, I just hit the gas and drove off because I didn't know. And kind of when I got my bearings, I realized I should call 911.
Okay.
So then I drove, and then I didn't drive very far. I just drove around the corner and waited for you guys to pick up, and then I kind of saw them come around the corner and go down the road and start driving down south towards Pecos and Brecker.
Okay. And did they look like Hispanic
And I knew that was
males,
the only way
white
out.
males?
I didn't see a person at all. I didn't get to see a person.
Okay.
I knew there was only one way out of Pecos Manor, and that's down there on Pecos Road, so that's why I told you that.
Okay. All right. I do see the officer pulling up on Fisher from Fairview.
Okay. So he's coming from the other way. He'll come around right now. I'll see him in just a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I see him.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and let you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye.
October 2nd, 2019.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you told the 911 operator. You mentioned in the call that you thought it might be a paintball gun because it should have gone through the window. When you were saying this, were you at all contemplating that there's no paint on your window?
No.
Were you sort of that frantic, you're just trying to come up with excuses or ways to explain what happened?
I was just trying to figure out why a bullet didn't come through the window. A bullet should always go through the window was what was going on in my mind. So I was trying to come up with a reason.
So you didn't know through this whole call that your car itself had been hit?
No.
We hear that you, when you got into the driveway, a loud crash.
Yes.
What was that?
When I put my car into park, when it automatically opened that door, and then the whole window just fell right there. And most of it kind of stayed together, like I think the window tint or something held a lot of it together, but also a lot of it didn't. And it was like all over inside my car and all over on the, a little bit on the driveway.
Okay. You also told them that you thought there might be two people. Why did you think that?
I was trying to figure out how someone could have been laying in the back shooting at you and gotten into the front and gotten out of there so quick. I was thinking like you'd have to jump over a chair. It seemed like they moved very quickly. So I think I was just trying to come up with a logical reason how they could have moved so fast.
We can have the Elmo again, please. Thank you. Putting Exhibit 1 back up here. So this is the residence that you were arriving back to, correct?
Correct.
And your car was facing this direction, west?
Correct.
And so the Jeep itself was also facing west?
Correct.
When you drove up to the pool, is that in this area off of Cole?
Yes.
And were you all the way up here before you saw the Jeep turn on to wait?
I was, yes.
So there was some time, actually, before the Jeep was able to follow and catch up with you.
Correct. I think in your mind, everything's happening so fast. I was just surprised by how quickly they were moving, but listening to it, for instance, you can hear that there was a lot more time that elapsed than what you thought in the moment.
So time when you were going through this stressful situation seemed faster to you, and now listening to the 911 call that you're talking while this was occurring, you can tell it's a little slower.
Yes.
Do you recall where you were when you were able to finally get your phone and start calling 911?
I was at the end there of Phelps Street, about to turn on to Cole and then I had to unlock my phone, so it took me a couple more seconds around the corner to get it.
Okay. So you were able to drive down Phelps, get into your phone, and get up to Cole and park there, and then you saw the Jeep also turn on Cole and then turn on wait? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
Yes.
Did you ever see anyone
As in a
in
person?
the vehicle, in the Jeep?
I didn't see who was driving the Jeep.
When you saw the rear window go up, you couldn't see who was in the back?
I didn't get a look at a person, no.
And then when the Jeep turned, you're looking in your rear view mirror towards it?
Yes, and then because I noticed it, I turned my body and looked out across.
And so as the Jeep came up Cole and turned on to wait, you were not able to see who the driver was?
No.
In the 911 call, we hear the 911 operator refer to the officer as a he. Was the first officer on scene a male or female?
Female.
When the female arrived, you got off the call with 911?
I did, yes.
And did you speak with her and then walk her over to your car?
I did, yes.
And did she point out this bullet hole in your car?
She did, yes.
When you saw that, what happened physically to you?
I remember within a short amount of time, I asked her if I could sit down. I started getting a little bit overwhelmed because I realized that someone shot at me, was trying to kill me. If my head was that close, that's the only logical thing.
Before you saw that bullet hole, were you still sort of trying to explain how there's not a hole in your window?
Yes.
After you saw that bullet hole did you start to think that someone had tried to kill you?
Yes, I remember I texted my father, told him that.
What did you text your father?
I said, I think someone just tried to kill me.
Were you thinking about how close you had come to death?
Yeah,
As you were experiencing all these emotions and trying to figure out how to handle this and texting your dad, did the police ask if there was anyone that could come stay with you?
yeah, they did. And because I didn't have any family, I just said, I had my 2 business partners who were really good friends, and I asked if they could come.
Did you have to tell them where to come?
Yeah, they didn't have my address.
Did they come and stay with you?
They did.
Did you eventually move with them across the street to kind of hang out in the shade?
It was hot, so yes, we moved over to a cooler spot as the day went on.
And we see in Exhibit 9, is this actually you guys sitting over here?
That is.
At some point, did a detective come get you and interview you?
Yeah, Detective Pillar came over and got me.
Did he interview you?
Yes, he did.
Where did that interview take place?
We walked around that corner. He had his car parked and in a kind of a shady spot, and we did an interview in his car.
Was that recorded?
I believe so.
The first patrol officer on scene, that female officer, did she ask you if you could think of anyone who would want to harm you?
She might have. I don't recall. I'm not certain.
Okay. When you met with Detective Pillar, did he ask you if you knew anyone who would want to harm you?
Yes.
Do you remember a lot of your interaction with that first officer?
To be honest, like the part that I remember the most is just when I saw the bullet hole, and I think maybe just kind of got a little bit of shock because it was real when I called 911, but then I kept thinking to myself, a bullet didn't come through my window. And, I just, when I saw that, I just realized like, no, someone is 100% trying to kill me. And then it was kind of an emotional little bit, like I felt a little overwhelmed.
When you talked to Detective Pillar, was that a little bit later, but while you're still sitting here on the scene?
Yes.
Had you had time to kind of get yourself back under control?
Yes.
Do you remember that conversation more than your
Yes.
conversation with the first officer?
Yes, I do.
At that time, when you were asked by Detective Pillar if there was anyone you knew who might want to harm you, were you able to provide any names?
I told him the only person I could think of.
And who was that?
It was 2 people. It was Lori and Alex.
Is that Lori Vallow?
Lori Vallow and Alex Cox.
So the morning of October 2nd of 2019, you have already told Detective Pillar that's who you believed is the only person you could think of who would want to harm you.
Yes.
Had you met Detective Pillar before that morning?
No, didn't know him.
Did you tell the police to tell Detective Pillar that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox had been involved in an incident in July of 2019 in Chandler, Arizona?
I did.
Did you think that that incident had something to do with this?
I did.
You were asked by the police, or do you recall being asked by the police if you had any issues with money or anyone else?
I do.
And did you have anyone else that you could think of that would want to shoot at you?
I did not.
Did you tell the police about your wife Melanie's relationship with Lori Vallow?
I did.
You told us that the Jeep that you saw parked right next to your driveway that we see here in Exhibit 9 had a Texas license plate, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell the police that Lori Vallow had lived in Texas?
I did.
So during the time you had known her, you were aware that she and Charles Vallow had lived in Texas?
Correct.
Did it seem relevant to you that you see a Jeep with a Texas plate in front of your house?
It did.
So on October 2nd, when you were shot at, Melanie was living here in Arizona, correct?
Correct.
And she lived close to your house in Phelps? Within a couple miles?
Within a couple miles, yes.
And she was the only person who, outside those 2 neighbors and 2 friends, who knew this address?
Correct.
On October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Lori Vallow was living?
No, I did not.
And on October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Alex Cox was living?
No, I did not.
But in July of 2019, you knew they were living in Chandler, Arizona. Or
Yes, I did.
Lori Vallow was living there. Did you ever learn that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox moved to Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes, I did.
Did Melanie ever move out of Arizona?
Can you restate that?
Sure. Did Melanie, your wife, or maybe by then your ex-wife, ever move out of Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Do you recall when she moved out of Arizona?
The end of October 31st or November 1st, 2019.
And did you learn where she moved?
Next door to Lori.
In
Idaho.
Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
The state has no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, I need to take a couple-minute recess to sort out an issue. I'll have the jury retire to the jury room. Please remember the admonition.